And hello, everyone. I'm Dave DeGuzman. Welcome inside the NBC4 Digital Center. A special edition of NBC4 Sports Extra is on our way. And to help me out, it's digital producer Ori Benatar. There's only like 3 reasons why you'd be here. It's usually weekend wrap-up, something about soccer or the Olympics, and it's going to be the latter this time. Getting a little cozy here for the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, which it starts really, really soon, which we just did Paris, and now we're looking forward to heading back to Europe and talking about Italy. This is the first of a couple of special episodes we're going to do counting down to the Olympics. Initial thoughts, Ori, as to the action that we're about to see. I think we've talked about this before. This is an Olympics that is kind of our last return to normal since COVID, because the last Winter Olympics in Beijing that had a lot of COVID restrictions.
I think it's the most anticipated Winter Olympics, I'd say, since Vancouver 2010, just because NHL players back for the hockey, that's obviously going to have a lot of anticipation. I think Sochi certainly had people have reserved feelings about it just because it's in Russia, especially within the United States. And then the last 2 Winter Games were in Asia, where it was very hard to watch things live. So for me, this is the most excited I've been for a Winter Olympics since 2010. You've got huge stars in all these different sports: hockey, figure skating, speed skating, etc. Team USA looks like it's going to have a great games. Events are live in the morning and afternoon. And it's in a beautiful country in Italy and in beautiful venues and mostly existing venues, which is great that they didn't have to build a lot of new infrastructure.
Yeah, that's right. Let's, I guess, start by setting the scene. First Winter Olympics in Italy since 2006, when the games were held in Torino. These will be a relatively unique games because there are technically 2 host cities for these Winter Olympics. We're not surprised by when it's spread out. Vancouver certainly was a spread out Olympics between Vancouver and Whistler. Beijing was also really spread out, but this is the first time that we've really had 2 actual host cities kind of co-hosting these Olympics, which it's going to be interesting. A mix of history, but also some relatively new concepts that are being used for these Olympics. What should people expect for these Milan Cortina games?
Well, they should expect, similar to Paris, maybe there isn't as many recognizable landmarks as Paris, just because that city is so well known amongst the majority of the general human population. But Milan is also a very beautiful city. Cortina was a host in 1956. So a lot of these competitors in skiing, they know those venues very well, just because they're competing there essentially annually, because Cortina is used a lot as an annual site for alpine skiing stuff, for World Cup, ski jumping, etc. We'll get to the sports later, but I think the one thing with Winter Games is you don't get as much of the glitz and glam of the landmarks, because a lot of stuff is indoors, and from a viewership standpoint, you're mainly seeing the mountains and the snow. It's not like Paris, when you could see the foot of the Eiffel Tower when watching beach volleyball,
right?
But at least things will.
Good morning, or
There's snow there. There were questions with that with Beijing, but I think it's going to be a whole bunch of fun just seeing how these events go down, and I can't wait for it.
Our guy Matt Barnes, which we were playing some video of his report from when he was there a year out. He got to see a lot of the venues before the games begin. A lot of construction was happening. Let's talk about the opening ceremony venue, because that usually always sets the tone for these games. San Siro, it's unique in terms of, I think a lot of people, especially those in the soccer world, know about it, but also it's an interesting venue because, I don't know, I think it represents a lot of kind of that Italian flair that, will be unique to these games.
And that's the thing that kind of helps it get off to a start, is when you have a venue that a lot of people in the world know to kickstart it. And San Siro is an iconic venue for soccer, hosting matches for AC Milan and Inter Milan annually. It's obviously hosted humongous sporting events in the past: World Cup games, European championships. It's been used for other stuff like boxing. Yes, The Eras Tour was there. I have to put that on because that is the biggest tour ever. So you got to throw that in there just to add some.
Well, remember in Paris, the swimming venue was in Paris was where La Défense Arena. That's also where Taylor Swift had her concert. So she's now 2 for 2 here.
How about that? But the thing that is interesting with San Siro, this is the first time we're seeing Italy host an Olympics after arguably their most recent best sporting moment, which is when they won the World Cup in 2006, which is in fact their last World Cup knockout win, which was 20 years ago, because when they hosted in Torino, it was 4 months before that World Cup. So that's maybe a little bit of a teaser for the opening ceremony. While winter sport athletes will be highlighted, you could maybe see a bit of a surprise, maybe from like a Gianluigi Buffon or a Fabio Cannavaro, just because that is one of the biggest moments in Italian sporting history. And a lot of those players did call San Siro home back when they played for Milan or Inter.
Obviously, with the Winter Olympics, it's kind of different, where the stadium that's used for the opening ceremony and first ceremonies in general isn't usually used for really anything else. Very few opening ceremony venues have been used for actual competition, and that's kind of just how it works for a Winter Olympics. But there is going to be a lot of flair for a lot of the other venues being used. I guess for basically reference, Milan is going to be mostly ice, and then Cortina is mostly for the snow events, although there will be one venue that's being used from the Cortina games that will be used for curling. We actually have some video of that, which I thought was really cool. And also we have this other topic that we have to get to, which is, of course, the hockey venue. Where should we start here?
I think we start with the hockey venue.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way.
And funnily enough, that is the only new venue that I have jotted down here, is the Milan Row Arena that will be used for many of the hockey games. And there were a lot of issues with it. The construction was not going to plan. People were complaining that the stands weren't done. There was a lot of stuff that was unfinished. They're even saying maybe holes in the ice. But then they did some exhibition matches a couple weeks ago. Things went smoothly to the point where like you can have hockey games there. The funniest was for the scoreboard underneath the center. It's like a tiny little video board.
I joked that it was like something out of Timu.
Well, the meme I saw was the Michael Scott flat screen TV from the dinner party episode. So, but it is usable, according to the people that went to that game. It has now become usable, but
the ice hockey venue is one of those things where it's like, you've had like 7 years. Like, come on. What are we doing here? But it looks like at least the competition surface will be ready.
Yes.
It's just more of a question on if it's going to be up to the capacity in terms of fans that they originally had set out and intended for, or if it's going to be something a little different. Let's take a look at one of the historic venues that we're going to be seeing used. This was the original 1956 Cortina venue, and it's going to be used for curling. I thought this was one of those, great ways of repurposing a historic arena. We saw that in the Paris games, where the 1924 stadium was used for field hockey, and it sounds like they're going to be taking the same page out of the playbook here.
I like that a lot. I know that stadium, I think, was also used for some of the ceremonies, I want to say.
Yeah.
And it's also going to be some of the first venue you see at the start of the games, because curling is going to be one of the first sports that starts before the opening ceremony, because there's just so many curling matches.
It's the mixed team has expanded that competition to be outside of the regular 17 days of competition.
But this continues the standard, and I think what is becoming the standard of Olympics coming back to cities that haven't hosted in a couple of decades, repurposing old venues, turning them into something modern, trying to shift around a little bit how those venues are used. Summer games have recently been in a lot of cities that have previously hosted, of course, London and Paris and LA soon. Winter-wise, you get Cortina in there. You'll have Salt Lake City back on the docket soon. The French Alps have a lot of venues already for 2030.
I haven't heard much about the French Alps and their preparations.
We'll have to see how that goes, but
they do have they have a presentation that they have to do at the closing ceremony. So I guess that's when we'll find out.
Right, but I think this is a good example of what a lot of future Olympics can be. You have two host sites. You use a big city to host a couple of these sort of prime events, and in Milan, it's going to be hockey, speed skating, figure skating, and short track. Those are some prime sports there. And then Cortina is used for all the other stuff. I think you'll see this marriage a lot more in future Olympics.
Well, and the other topic that I wanted to touch upon was the sliding center, because that was also an iffy venue that we weren't sure was going to be. I mean, at one point we thought Lake Placid was going to be like the plan B for these games.
Like Tahiti hosting surfing.
Yeah, well, and because it's not every place has a sliding venue, and you can't just build them wherever. I mean, those are venues that are really difficult difficult and really expensive to maintain. So I think we're going to really start to see for the Winter Games a kind of a bit of a rotation, if you will, amongst host cities and places that are used to hosting these winter events. Yeah, the sliding venue. Glad that they got that done because we really weren't sure if that was going to be. It was going to be a little dicey. It should be fun. These games, the venues should be great. These are all venues that have been used repeatedly for World Cup circuits and this, that, and the other in terms of the outdoor venue. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be great. And what I love about the Winter Olympics is that it's always something that, like, it's just so pretty to look at on
Totally.
TV.
Yeah, the one historic venue I did want to point out, Verona Olympic Arena, hosting the closing ceremony. This thing was completed during the Roman Empire. Yeah. Like, that's how old this venue is.
Yeah.
It's not host for sports. It's only going to be for the closing ceremony. There's been operas there. I think there's some historical artifacts written about it, that you've had gladiator matches there.
Yeah. It's going to be really cool.
That's really cool. I like that a lot.
All right, let's take a break. On the other side of the break, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about some of the sports that we're going to be watching, including some new events to keep an eye on. That is, on the other side of this break, you're watching NBC4 Sports Extra. And we're back here on NBC4 Sports Extra. David de Guzman and Ori Benatar with you as we're counting down to the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, which, of course, you can watch right here on NBC4. I don't think we've mentioned that enough in this lead up. We talked about venues before the break. Let's talk about some of the sports that we're going to be watching. Obviously, we have the go-tos. We got, your figure skating. We got your ice hockey, which will be great for ice hockey because we're going to get, obviously, NHL players. That's been a recurring theme. My favorite is biathlon because when you can ski and shoot, that's great. I like it. I like biathlon.
Okay.
But we're obviously going to dive into each sport kind of more specifically. But when we look at the program as a whole, there's going to be some new things that I think Ori fans are going to be really interested in.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you've got the sports that are really popular, maybe outside of the United States. I mean, when you look at that list, alpine skiing is one of the central sports to a Winter Olympics. It's maybe not as big in the U.S. It's gotten bigger over the past couple of decades with all these names like Bodie Miller and Lindsey Vonn and Michaela Schifrin popping up. But in Europe, alpine skiing is big. Figure skating is probably the biggest Olympic-centric sport in there outside of hockey. Curling,
it's the one that gets the most views, I think.
Yeah, it does, because it has that added element that it attracts people who are maybe not so into sports because of the dancing and the fashion behind it and everything. So it attracts a wider
1994
audience.
changed everything.
Well, that too, yeah. I mean, the fact that
I haven't had that kind of drama
Harding
since
Carrigan in '94,
then. Still one of the highest rated broadcasts we've ever seen.
I know, like
in
more
American
than some
television
Super Bowls.
history.
And the reasons why is a bit sad for our society, but
okay.
Besides the point, I mean, my personal favorites from this list that I have a soft spot for, I love the curling. I love the sliding sports. Skeleton in particular is my favorite sliding sport. It just looks so cool seeing them head first. They got the cool helmet designs akin to what you see like in hockey goaltender helmets or like Formula One drivers where there's some art behind that. So that's fun. I love biathlon too. I mean, I love all these sports. Short track is always a blast. You want to talk about high stakes.
Oh, man.
You want to talk about
roller derby
intense?
on ice.
It is intense. And you could literally be in last place going into the last half lap and you can win a gold medal. We've seen it happen before, but there's one new sport on that list that's making its debut, and it's ski mountaineering. It's a long name.
I'm surprised we haven't had this sport before because, like, it doesn't take a genius to be like, oh, we raced down the hill. What about going up the hill? And you're like, oh, yeah. I mean, and it's a sport that's actually been around for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
I am looking forward to it. I think I remember the United States was trying to qualify a quota spot for I think it was the mixed team relay event, and it went down to like USA versus Canada in a Salt Lake City qualifying matchup, and it's one of those things where it's like, ooh, USA Canada, which is a classic rivalry in winter sports, and the United States won, by the way, so they were able to get that spot. So automatically, like, you have some rooting interest into this sport. I think it's going to be really cool. There's a lot of, again, we'll talk about it more in depth once we get there, but it's going to be one of those things where it's like it's going to be cool, relatively quick events compared to what it usually is, and I'm looking forward to seeing it happen in action.
Also, the Winter Olympics really set the standard for extreme sports having a place in the Olympic program, because before you had like skateboarding and surfing and sport climbing in the summer program, snowboarding, freestyle skiing kind of set the tone that, hey, we can get extreme sports into an Olympic program. And those two sports have become big time events for a lot of people and attracts a lot of a younger audience. You look at freestyle skiing, moguls is incredible. You've got the big air, you got the slope style. Obviously, half pipe is a must watch event in the United States from Shaun White to Chloe Kim. So it's fun that there's this healthy balance of you got your extreme sports, your more traditional stuff, and then you're in the middle. I'm familiar with professional sport with ice hockey.
Yeah, excuse me. Interested to see who's going to kind of succeed Shaun White in terms of being the American face for the half pipe, because it's kind of incredible that Shaun White had such a long career, and this will be really the first games that we won't really have him around. Chloe Kim says she's going to be competing, even though she recently just had a significant injury. So again, once we get to talking about the specifics, but you're talking about an American team, and there's so many faces and stars, and I think this could actually be one of the better performing Winter Olympics for Team USA. And when we have the amount of sports that's going on, I mean, I think 2022 was just kind of, I feel like they take every other Olympics to really get out there, because I remember Vancouver was great, Sochi not so much, Pyeongchang was actually really good, Beijing not so much. So
it's a hit or miss for the U.S. Not to mention who becomes the bigger household names. Yeah, because I don't feel like Beijing brought a name that became really well known in the household from a USA standpoint.
Those were just really difficult games to even really follow and root for, just because of the circumstances. I mean, there were some really great moments that happened in those games, but no one really came out as a breakout star that was someone that was going to be on the top of your mind for the remaining 4 years. I think Nathan Chen had that great redemption moment in 2022 after he failed to podium in 2018. So, I mean, look, there's so much we're going to be able to talk about over these next couple of episodes of previewing the Olympics. But when we talk about the sports, it's a healthy, and we're going to look at the schedule too. It's a healthy amount of sports. I feel like what I love about the Winter Olympics is that we somehow continue to expand and grow, and we continue to find new events that I thought gives the United States some more chances. Norway is obviously going to be, such a powerhouse. They always are at the top of the medal table.
The Germans too. Yeah, Canadians.
I mean, you always have those powerhouse Winter Olympic nations, but the United States has always been so competitive in so many of these sports. Is there a sport in particular? I know you mentioned it, but is there one that's kind of sticking out to you for whatever reason? Maybe more so than compared to other games?
The answer is obvious. I am actually going to pick the two most popular in hockey and figure skating, because the NHL players in hockey is just, it just makes the men's hockey tournament. Yeah. And we've never had a really big men's hockey tournament. The last big men's hockey Olympic moment was probably the TJ Oshie shootout win over Russia back in 2014 in Sochi. So it's been that long where you had a really memorable men's hockey moment. And then figure skating sticks out because there's so many Americans that have a legitimate chance to win. Ilya Malinin is going to be a huge name on the men's side.
The quad guy.
I love the trio for the women with Amber Glenn, Alyssa Liu, Isabeau Levito. They could sweep the podium. They're great friends. They had a lot of funny moments in the press conferences after the U.S. championship. So I think all three of them could become, household names, instantaneous sensations if they perform well at these games. So the two most popular sports kind of stick out for me just because you can get those household names. And obviously for men's hockey, if you get a USA-Canada gold medal game, there will be no bigger hockey game we will see than that in the last, 16 years? That would be the biggest hockey game in over a decade and a half.
Yeah, it's been a while for sure. Some of the other new events that we just wanted to point out, I know we mentioned ski mountaineering earlier, but we've also got women's doubles in luge. We haven't seen that before. Women's large hill. This is a sport in ski jumping, an event in ski jumping that the women have been clamoring for. It's one of those last few we haven't seen. We've talked about equality in the Olympics in terms of making sure there's the even number of opportunities for men and women, and they've been wanting the large hill for so long, and we'll finally get to see it at these 2026 games. Mixed team relay and skeleton. I know how much you love the head first.
That's gonna be sweet.
Which we've seen the team relay in luge, we haven't seen it in skeleton, so that's going to be really interesting. It's a one woman, one man back-to-back runs, so that'll be really fascinating. Dual moguls in freestyle skiing. I think
I think it's a race.
it's
with
yes.
two people at the same time.
We've seen it in Alpine, kind of doing like the slalom head to head.
Also, parallel giant slalom and snowboarding is a very good comparison for the dual moguls because you got two guys at the same time doing it. That'll be fun.
Yeah. But it's not only just a race, but also like moguls. There's a lot of style points as well. So it's a combination of beating the clock, but also, getting the style points from the judges. So I think that's going to be interesting. And then we're going to see team combined in alpine skiing. Usually we see individual combined for so long. Michaela Schifrin has done pretty well in that event. It's 2 slalom runs and a downhill run. But we haven't seen it in a team event competition.
It's men and women, right? Or it's not a mixed. It's the men have one and the women have
correct.
one.
Yeah,
okay.
it's separate. But one competitor will be assigned to each of the runs. So it's
so it's 3 different skiers.
Yes.
Okay. So you could have like Schifrin do a slalom run, Vaughn do a downhill, and you add a third in there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's gonna be for the team combined. It's actually just 2 runs. It's just downhill and slalom.
Okay.
So it's just 2. So
that will be interesting.
If I'm reading this right.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you have Schifrin and Vaughn together on a USA team for the women, that would be very interesting.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's what you want, right?
Yes.
So
that's why I keep saying it, because that's what I want.
We'll dive deeper into all these sports and talk about, but we want to give you guys an overview of some of the new events that we're going to be getting. So solid program. We have the venues in place for the most part. So should be fun. Ori Benatar, we will see you on the next episode of Sports Extra previewing the Olympics. But when we come back here, we have a special story to show. That's coming up on the other side of the break. Stay with us. And we're back here on NBC4 Sports Extra, this special continuing to countdown to the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics. And we are guaranteed to have an emotional moment during the men's figure skating competition when American skater Maxim Naumov takes the ice. And that's because he's had to overcome an incredible amount of grief and tragedy to make it to where he is today. Jack Doles has his journey to Italy.
All right, are we ready?
Not all superheroes come from comic books.
In the beginning, when I was just growing up and getting introduced to the sport through my parents, I mean, I saw them as superheroes.
Vadim Naumov and Evgeny Shishkova taught their son Max to skate at a young age. In their prime, they were a world champion pairs team and were 2-time Olympians for Russia. After they retired, they relocated to the United States and became beloved coaches at the Skating Club of Boston. But they were on board the American Airlines flight that collided with a Black Hawk helicopter in Washington, D.C. in January. There were no survivors.
One of the last conversations that we had was about the Olympics and about this upcoming season, and just seeing how passionate my dad was about all that stuff and how vital and crucial it was for us to do this. I can't even tell you how much it would mean. I can't describe it to you.
Change is an inevitable fact of life for figure skaters. Each year they change routines. That brings a change in music and outfits and skates. But nothing could have prepared Max for the changes that were thrust upon him. Yet his goals remain the same: to make the U.S. Olympic team, to hear his name called to take the Olympic ice, just as his parents had.
I can't explain to you how much it would mean to me. They're my biggest supporters, my superheroes, my motivation, my drive, my reason to wake up and to go to bed.
Every time a skater performs, they tell a story. For Max, this year's program is a tribute to his superheroes.
It's a piece about remembrance, holding on to things that are very dear and close, kind of embracing emotionally around that and using that as power to, continue through.
He says when he skates this routine, everything falls away. He's not even thinking about what he's doing, it just comes naturally.
I have the strength, the power, and the confidence, and the assistance, and the courage of 3 people instead of just 1. And I really do feel that. They're watching me, they're guiding me, and I genuinely do feel it, especially with this program. And when I can give back what I am feeling it becomes the most authentic and emotional experience for me, and I get to share that with everybody.
And the response from audiences has been tremendous. The emotions are raw and unfiltered and returned right back to Max.
It's finding myself and my new version of myself after everything through skating has been a crucial part of my healing and grieving process, and it's going to continue for a long time, I'm sure. It's been very therapeutic.
Our thanks to Jack Doles, and of course, Maxim Naumov was named to the Olympic team shortly after the U.S. Figure Skating Championships concluded in St. Louis, Missouri. He'll be on the team alongside Ilya Malinin and Andrew Torgashev. The men's figure skating competition begins with a short program on Tuesday, February 10th. And that'll do it for this edition of NBC4 Sports Extra. As we continue to count down to the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, we will have more previews to come here on the NBC4 streaming channel. But for now, until next time, I'm David de Guzman. Have a good one. And hello, everybody. I'm David de Guzman. Welcome inside the NBC4 Digital Center. Another special edition of NBC4 Sports Extra. We are continuing our countdown to the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics. We've got special guests here. We have Ori, of course. He's always here for these Olympic conversations. But we've also got the guy, our Olympic correspondent, Matt Barnes. He's set to go to Italy pretty soon. In fact, by the time a lot of you watch this, he will already be there. So we're just really distorting your space-time continuum here. But Matt, you are preparing to go to, this will be your fourth Olympic assignment, is that right?
That's
okay. Right. How excited are you? Have you tried to bulk up the sleep in order to prevent the sleep deficit? What is sleep? I mean, what is that? How are you feeling?
I work a morning show. I don't get sleep already, so that's no big deal. No, feeling good about this one. I think this is going to be cool because I think more than any other Olympics, maybe since Salt Lake 2002, with that Team USA could be really good in a lot of different sports. And I think that's always exciting when you're covering a games that has some different energy and excitement to it. Beijing was just kind of blah in many ways because of COVID, and there were some performances that didn't go as well for Team USA. But this one really has a lot of energy and a lot of different sports that I think the American audience is going to really get behind this team.
Yeah, we kind of said that also in our first preview where we were kind of discussing the hype around these games. It feels like a Salt Lake City. It feels like a Vancouver even, where you have a Team USA that's strong. People are excited about the sports. The NHL edition and the hockey's in there, which we've said many times.
Yes.
But obviously Beijing, very, very different to what we've got in Milan. And I'm curious for you, though, what are you seeing as sort of the differences from a coverage standpoint between Beijing and what you're going to be doing in Cortina?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is the fans and families being there is a huge difference in terms of what we can do. When we were in Beijing, it was so much of just we could go to an event, and then honestly, sometimes we couldn't even interview the people because they were so far away. They really limited who we could talk to. We did so many Zoom interviews. Now we've actually been able to see these athletes train. We've had one-on-one conversations with them. We've talked to some of the family members. It's just been night and day in terms of getting to know the athletes, being able to see them in action, seeing their excitement for the games because they're not so worried about pedaling around not getting a virus.
Right.
Instead, they're worried about being at their peak athletic performances. So that's been interesting. And then for us, we've been able to just, again, tell a wide array of stories from all across the different sports because of that, because we've been able to travel to, I didn't go anywhere with these places, but our team has been able to travel to Utah, we went to Lake Placid, went to Boston for figure skating. We went to Minneapolis to cover the curlers. So we've been all over the country, be able to talk to all these different athletes from all different sports, and I think that's going to really help the coverage.
Yeah.
You were in Italy last year to mark a year to go, so you got a great look at the preparations. Give us a scene setter. What is it like in Italy? What's it like in Northern Italy? How are these games going to be unique? Obviously, the big headline is that 2 official host cities. This is going to be the most spread out games in Winter Olympic history.
Yeah, you mentioned the first thought, which is the logistics of it all, which is the 2 host cities, but really it's 5 different clusters. There's so many different places. All these different events are going to be happening. Milan, just with the speed skating, figure skating, and hockey. Cortina, we'll all be stationed. We'll have the women's downhill skiing, curling, and then all the sliding sports, bobsled, luge, and skeleton. But that obviously still leaves men's downhill skiing. That still leaves freestyle skiing and cross-country skiing and snowboarding. So it's all over the place. So that's going to be the first real thing. But what's cool is that each one of these clusters or these little towns, they're so excited for it. And all these athletes have competed in all these places, so they're excited for it. They know these venues, so they're not only excited to go, but then they are aware of them. So that means you're going to get the best of the best from everybody because they're comfortable in their surroundings. So I think that's going to be the coolest thing. And then the people of Italy are just so excited. Europeans love their winter sports a little bit more than maybe the Chinese do. So I think you're going to get real great fan interaction too within those who live there and those who are traveling in.
What's kind of the temperature difference between Beijing and where you're going to be? I would have to think that Cortina's much colder than Beijing.
Well,
around this time.
I heard the Beijing cold though is just a different type of cold. That was just like an intense, like dry air, like insane cold.
You're completely right. It was so dry there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It was so dry there. And the thing with Beijing, they had to pump in a ton of fake snow, and it does snow in Beijing, but not very often. Whereas Cortina's gets a lot of more natural snow, and they're going to have some more fake snow to supplement
It's
it.
like if you had the Olympics here.
Correct. Yeah. But they're just going to be supplementing.
One day.
Yeah. They're supplementing, whereas Beijing, they were counting on it just being all fake snow. But temperature-wise should be around the same. It's just a difference. Because it's so dry there, it doesn't snow in Beijing. Whereas Cortina, not as dry, so it snows more.
Okay.
We're going to dive into some of the big sports with Matt here. But before we do that, give us a sense of what, and I know there's no such thing as a typical day, but give us a sense as what your day-to-day is going to be like. You are going to be doing a lot of reports for us and for a lot of stations within Nexstar. But what do you think a day in the life of Matt Barnes is going to be like in Italy?
So this one's going to be interesting because unlike maybe some of the other games where I would normally stand on a balcony and then do live shots for 12 different stations, because me and Justin Surensey, who's at the NBC in Des Moines from Nexstar, we're the only two in Cortina. So you're pretty much going to see me a lot on NBC4. So I'll do probably 4 or 5 live shots for the morning show, which normally it'd only be 2. You'll see me live.
We see you a lot already.
I know, sadly, sorry for you all. You'll see me in the 4 p.m. show, so I'll be evening and nights, which is going to be cool. And then it's just going to be a lot of different stories we're going to tell. We're going to talk to the athletes, we're going to talk to the fans, talk to the locals about how they feel about it, and just give you a flavor of the games for those of us who are there, compared to what you always maybe see on NBC, which is just the highlights of what's going on. So we'll try to give you more of the flavor of it, which would be cool.
Let's start diving in, shall we? We want to talk about hockey, alpine skiing, and figure. These are some of the headline sports for us here. Here in Central Ohio, there's a lot of Ohio connections to hockey. Let's start with, men's hockey, because the big headline, obviously, NHL players back in the Olympics. Looking forward to some CBJ players on the Olympic ice. What should we be looking out for?
This is what I'm most excited for, right? Just because the NHL players being back brings a certain energy to the men's hockey tournament.
It just makes it better.
Yeah, it feels like a legitimate best on best, right? And you feel bad the Russian players aren't there because that would be another great team to add to it. But it's just that we have the best players playing on this great stage. I'm excited to see Zach Werenski. I mean, we've seen Zach grow up here in Columbus and become this amazing player who is, I think now we know he's one of the best defensemen in all the NHL. But he's been proving it now on the world stage for the last 2 tournaments. I mean, he did the 4 Nations, top points getter, goes to the World Championship for Team USA. They win the gold for the first time in 92 years, and he was the named top defenseman of the tournament. He's proven his mettle, so now I can't wait to see him do it on the Olympic stage. And then for someone like Elvis Merzlikins, who, he gets to play for Latvia. He's done it many times for the World Championships, but he's 32. This might be his only Olympics because the last 2 have passed him by because they wouldn't let NHL players play. This means a lot to him. And he grew up in Lugano, Switzerland, for where he kind of did his secondary school as well as where he started his junior career. Lugano is an hour and a half from Milan. He's got so much different family and friends coming from Lugano, Switzerland down to Milan. So I'm excited for him to be able to play. And you know who his first game is against?
USA.
Yeah, that's going to be real fun.
Even some former Jackets. I mean, Bjorkstrand on Denmark, Texier on France. You got Seth Jones also on Team USA. So having those Jacket connections is really nice. In previous Olympics, it would maybe be Rick Nash. That's kind of the big Jackets guy that played in the Olympics, won some golds with Canada. But I've never been more excited for an Olympic men's hockey tournament probably in my life. Yeah. I mean, Vancouver is the one that I can remember the most. The moment in Sochi, obviously, with TJ Oshie. But this is the best U.S. roster they've had in decades. Yeah. Canada, you could also argue this is the best roster they've had in decades. And then you look at Sweden, you look at Finland, you look at Czechia, you look at Denmark and Germany. Oh, it's gonna be so good.
And it's how much of this too, David? Do you think it's just because all these guys haven't? There's so many guys that haven't played before.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
It's been 12 years. In fact, the last time it happened to be. I'm just wearing it right now.
Yeah, it just happened to be wearing it. Yeah.
What was Sochi, and we remember the excitement there with TJ Oshie, that shootout against Russia. I mean, we haven't had that kind of spark with the Olympic hockey tournament. Obviously, a little bit of controversy with the venue. Matt, do you want to update us on what's going on? I know you haven't even been there yet.
No,
but
I mean, yeah, when I was there, it was literally just a shell.
Were you worried?
Yeah, a year ago, I was like, well, they have a year, but I always listen. If you've ever been to Europe, they do everything on their own time. All right, whether it's dinner or building an arena, and so I think in their mind they're like, we'll get it done.
We'll have 365 dinners first, then we'll build the arena.
So it looks like it's somewhat done.
It's a little smaller than it's supposed to be.
Yes, it's smaller. The ice is smaller than it's supposed to be. The seating capacity is smaller than it's supposed to be. The practice arena may not be done by the time they get there. All that stuff doesn't matter as long as the main ice is done and there are fans in the stands. They did get a test event done. They seemed happy with the ice. So, they still
Will
got
it
a
be
couple
up
more
to
weeks.
The capacity that they said it
No,
would be? We
not
don't
even close.
Right.
No, they've already said it's supposed to be 16,000 seats. It's going to be closer to 13,000.
Well, let's hope they didn't oversell the tickets.
Yeah, that's.
Hey, but you'll be there.
But that's beyond what we care about. We
Yeah,
just want
right,
the
yeah.
action on the ice to be good.
Exactly. Let's talk women's hockey. Obviously, when we talk about women's hockey, you automatically think about Ohio State and the ice hockey team at Ohio State because they have so many. In fact, this year they're sending 12 Buckeyes to Milan Cortina. So there's going to be a lot of Buckeye flavor here. You've sat down with a couple of them, Matt. What is first of all, let's talk about the connections that we have to the women's ice hockey tournament, and also from sitting down with them, just kind of what should we be looking out for watching these games?
So it's fun. So went up to Cleveland because they had that little rivalry series. I shouldn't say little; it's a big rivalry series between USA and Canada. 2 games in USA,
They've met a couple of times.
Yeah, right. 2 in the US, games in the US, 2 in Canada. And they did this, and I love that they do this to get fans excited for what we expect to see, a gold medal game in Italy. And so I talked to 3 Buckeyes who are going to play for Team USA, 4 that are going to play for Team Canada. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of Buckeye representation. And they go from Natalie Spooner, this is her 4th Olympics, all the way to Joy Dunn, who this is her first, and she's currently playing on Ohio State right now. So it's fun to get all their different experiences about how they feel about it, because for some of them this is just all excitement. For Natalie, this is about business. For a lot of the USA players, this is like, we got to get revenge. We need to win gold. But for Canada, this is about revenge too, because the last time they played in the World Championships, USA won. So that's what I think is going to be fun.
The thing, though, also to realize, this is something I just wrote today working on our women's hockey preview. We're previewing everything on NBC4i.com, so you can read it over there.
Good plug.
Good plug. First time we have a women's Olympic tournament after the founding of the PWHL.
That's right.
So the level has raised in women's hockey, too. So now you have all these American, Canadian, Swedish, Finnish, Czech players, college players, too, playing at a higher level, playing more competitively year-round. So that, I think, is even going to make the women's hockey tournament that much better. Very similar to what we're going to see with the men.
They know each other's game, too, now, because, you know, like you say, you play each other in college, that's one thing, but now having played in the PWHL, you're seeing teammates face off against each other, goalies facing off against people that they train with every day. That is, like you said, it's going to make the tournament so much better. And trust me, it's not just USA and Canada. We all like to think that's what it is, but
it probably still is.
But it's going to be still more competitive. I don't think you're going to see as many like 12-0 games anymore in the women's. It's going to
be like 5-0.
Yeah.
And I parallel it to very much. Let's think about women's basketball and soccer. Women's soccer, U.S. women, they're not winning World Cups anymore at the ease that they were 20 years ago. Women's basketball, the U.S. women's team, they only won the gold medal game by 1 point. They're on the brink to losing to the French. Maybe this is that year in women's hockey where for the U.S. and Canada, they're tested on the brink a little bit more. They probably will still get to the final, but Sweden, Finland, maybe Switzerland, maybe Czechia, they start to compete a little bit more against these teams.
Exactly.
If I can throw in some trivia, please. I believe in the time that we've had women's ice hockey in the Winter Olympics, there's only been one tournament that did not feature a Canada-USA gold medal final. Do you know which one that was?
I think I just looked at this today.
I thought it was in Sochi, but don't hold
I
me
think
to
it's Torino.
That's right. It was
Canada,
Farina.
Sweden?
Canada was in that, but it was against Sweden.
It was against Sweden,
not the United
Yeah,
States.
I knew it wasn't the U.S. The U.S. was
so-
a team that did not make it.
So it was. It's been 20 years, and so that whole arc, the Italian arc. But we're hoping for a USA Canada again because God, that rivalry is so good.
And not only that, but keep in mind, and again, take what you will from the rivalry series that we did in December and January. U.S. went 4-0 in those 4 games. Won one game 10-4. I mean, it was. I don't think the games are going to be that lopsided because they will face them in the round robin, USA and Canada, and then we think again in the gold medal game. So I think Canada's going to step their game up compared to what we saw in the rivalry series.
It's always super competitive there.
Let's now dive into some of the other big name sports. Let's go figure skating because we're coming off the U.S. championships. We got the figure skating team named, and it's always the sport that we love talking about. It always draws the most eyeballs, and there is potential that this could be a really, really good Olympics for Team USA. Matt, I feel like the names before were just like names that we would just see and it would be like, oh, like maybe they have a shot. No, I think they have a legitimate shot, particularly with the women. They could sweep.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great if they did? I mean, it was cool having the figure skating championships here in Columbus last year because we were able to kind of see the before. Now we get to the now, which is after the figure skating championships, and now here we go into the Olympics. The women, I mean, this is going to be fun. I mean, Amber Glenn's been on a roll. Isabel Levito, obviously, has been right there.
That's the name we saw in Columbus.
That's right. She was right here in Columbus and skated amazingly. And then Alyssa Liu, who didn't skate in Columbus because she's in the middle of this
Her
amazing...
story is insane.
Yeah, this amazing comeback. She retires for 2.5 years. Was like, I'm done. Then comes back and I don't know. She might be the best of the three. They're so interchangeable that, like you said, they could go 1, 2, 3 and. Wow, that'd be fun.
I think the country's going to fall in love with them. Just seeing the chemistry they had in their press conferences after they were selected. They have fun together. They're clearly best friends. I think the country's going to fall in love with them. Also, at the same time as the women's gold medal game, you're going to have that women's singles free skate program. So that's the last Thursday of the game, so that'll be intense. And guess what? We haven't had an American winner in women's figure skating since Sarah Hughes in 02 in Salt Lake.
Oh, I remember that one.
We're due for a U.S. winner on the women's side, and you've got 3 very, very excellent skaters that can get us, the U.S., to the gold medal.
There are some people who are, may have tuned out. Last time they saw men's figure skating, they remember Nathan Chen, all the quads that he did in that free routine. He won his gold medal. And maybe they're tuning in like, oh, what happened to that guy? Don't worry. There's a guy named Ilya Malinin. And if you haven't heard of him yet, where have you been? He is nicknamed the Quad God for a reason, Matt.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember watching him in 2022 and thinking, oh, this kid's pretty good. And he was trying to do the quads then, wasn't landing them all, but you could tell he had this like gumption about him, like, oh, I'm going to be that guy. I'm gonna do what has never been done. Didn't make the team then. I think he was just a little too young, a little too ambitious, and they went with a steadier Jason Brown instead. This year, oh man, he's still got the same gumption, the same energy, but he's landing the jumps and he's doing stuff that no one's ever done. I've never want to put anything in a Sharpie for a gold medal for any sport and anything. But if there's a Sharpie for these games, it's Ilya Malinin winning gold in men's figure skating right now.
Yeah, that's probably a safe pick. I mean, he's got some competition in it, but the way that this guy lands his jumps and the quads that he does, you could be looking at maybe the best men's figure skating performance of all time if he pulls it off. I mean, you have Levin Lysacek, you have Nathan Chen. I think Nathan Chen would have had a little bit more publicity around him if those games were not in Beijing. Yeah. But now you're in Milan. You have Malinin here, who is just otherworldly.
7 quads in a performance is what he's planning to do. That's
I
absurd.
can't even skate.
Yeah, that's absurd.
I can't even skate in a straight line without falling.
There's hope for you, Ori.
No, there isn't.
There is.
No, I'm
not too late.
I am a land
We can go to
mammal.
the chiller after this.
I am a land mammal.
No, I'm really excited for Ilya. I think, it's his to lose, but I think, it was probably a good thing he didn't make that team 4 years ago because we saw with Nathan 4 years prior in 2018 where, there was a lot of pressure on this guy and he may not have been ready for the moment. But I think with this maturity now, he does it with such ease that I don't think the Olympic stage is really going to intimidate him because he doesn't even have to put his 100%. I mean, I think he's going to, but he doesn't even have to in order to win this gold medal. So We'll see. We do sports for a reason, and I think it'll be fun. And I believe that's the first week. Ori?
That'll be the first week.
And,
So-
you'll get a taste of it, I'm sure, in the team event.
That's
you know,
right.
You'll get
Which starts before the opening ceremony.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Let's go alpine skiing here. We're seeing some familiar names again, and the first thing I think of is not only the return of a legend, but also this legend in the making that she has already cemented her GOAT status, but she's also looking for redemption. I'm obviously talking about Michaela Schifrin and Lindsey Vonn. These two have great separate stories of their own, but the fact that we're going to be seeing them on the same team, and also there is a lot of different stars that I think could perform really, really well for the U.S. Alpine ski team.
Yeah, that's what's fun is that, the stars are Lindsey Vonn and this amazing comeback that she's on, 41 years old. And the fact that it's not like this was a courtesy, like a nice pick by the U.S. Like,
Right.
we want to do this for the story. No, she's winning.
She's
World
winning.
Cups.
Yeah,
She's back on the
winning
World
down
Cup
on the
those.
circuit.
podium, all right?
It's
She's
insane.
she's very much a contender to win here, and she loves Cortina. That's why she said she wouldn't do this if it weren't Cortina. She loves this mountain. She's very comfortable with it. That's what really led this comeback. And then Michaela Schifrin, as you mentioned, that was just a very disappointing Beijing for her. I just think the pressure got to her, which it would get to any of us, right?
It was also a weird games too.
was,
But yeah,
it was.
the pressure was definitely there to perform. And what I will say is that, from hearing her in a lot of interviews, she is so mature.
Yeah.
She is so, I think she's so very self-aware, and she gets it. Like I think she got a lot of perspective out of those Beijing games.
Completely agree. Yeah, she's very she's very smart in how to handle all this pressure. And I think after what happened 4 years ago, I'm not worried about her one bit in 2026. And honestly, the fact that Lindsay's taking a little bit of the spotlight from her, I think is actually good because it takes a little bit of the constant media pressure on her. So with those two on the mountains, and like you said, there's still others, whether it's Breezy Johnson or Paula Maltson, and there's a whole bunch of others that you don't know their names, but they could easily be getting gold, silver, or bronze at, because all it takes is one run.
What's kind of the expectation for the U.S. Alpine skiing team outside of Schifrin and Vaughn potentially medaling maybe once or twice?
Yeah.
With the men too, obviously men's U.S. Alpine skiing maybe hasn't had the same success as the women. What is kind of the medal expectations for these events?
For the women, you could go anywhere from 5 to 7 among the 5 different disciplines easily.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, Michaela's, slalom is like her thing. Super G, Lindsay seems like she's really handling that right now. But we've seen other Americans in these different World Cup events find a way on the podium, whether it's silver or bronze. Again, that's the problem with these events, though. It's one run or two runs, and that's all you get. So, it's just how you are on that day. But I think 5 to 7 for the women. For the men, there's probably only one guy that's got a real chance to medal, Ryan Cochran-Siegel. And it's gonna. He got a silver in Beijing, so it's not like he can't do it. It's just that it's gonna be real competitive, and we're still working on building that program up, I think.
And you're dealing with Europeans who
They're
ski
really
on
good.
Cortina
They're
all
very
the time.
They're very good at
they
skiing.
They just have bigger mountains and better places to train, and it's just how they grow up. So yeah.
You mean there's no one training over here in Ohio?
You know-
What was it? What's that mountain called? That Louis Vito?
Yeah, Mad
trainer?
River.
Mad River.
Listen,
Thank
you
you.
and you can become an Olympian. It's just
Yeah.
tough to become a medalist.
Yeah. As we start to wrap things up here, Matt, who's an athlete of any sport that you've started covering, that you've talked to, that you're really invested and interested in that story, and all of us should be too?
All right, so the one I would say for sure is Danny Castro of the curling. Now, I'm a big John Schuster, Team Schuster fan of curling. I was looking forward to hopefully covering them in Cortina for another go at it. But I'll tell you what, Danny Castro, who has gone through Guillain-Barré syndrome and wasn't even sure if he'd be able to curl anymore, gets through that, has his team. He's only like 25 years old, and he just has this confidence about him, and he permeates that around the rest of his team. One of the guys on Team Casper, by the way, I'm blanking on his name unfortunately right now, but he went to the Cleveland School of Music. Cleveland School of Music. All right, that's where he graduated from.
Of the best rhythm sweeping on the
Right,
team.
exactly. And he's clearly the first Olympian ever from the Cleveland School of Music. He goes by the cello, like the curling cellist or curling cello, whatever it is. But it's this like group of guys you never would have heard of, and they're all going to come together. And I think they have a legit chance to shock the world. If you talk to any of the Team Schuster guys, they said
Danny Casper, Ben Richardson.
Yeah, Ben Richardson. There you go.
Okay.
Yep, there you go.
Did a little Google search.
Yeah, they've made an impression on the curling circuit. Yeah, and yes, there is a world curling circuit.
Of course there is.
Yeah, and so look out for them. And then this is going to be a name you're going to need to know in speed skating, Jordan Stoltz.
Oh, yeah. I already know him.
Yeah, exactly.
Jordan Stoltz, yeah.
And I don't know if a lot of people do.
He could do Eric Heiden like this. Yeah, for sure.
You got a taste of what he could do in Beijing. Like you could see he was on the cusp, but he's really good. He's breaking world records left and right. You better know that name because you will by the end of Milan.
Is there an Ohio athlete that you think can break through? Because in Paris, I thought of Annette Etchikunwoke. She was kind of the breakthrough of the Ohio athletes, winning that silver in the hammer. Any Ohio athletes you think can have a similar breakthrough?
I mean, I know I'm very, very biased, but I do think Gwyneth Phillips of women's hockey is one from Athens native who, and I say breakthrough because she was kind of unknown about maybe 18 months ago, and then went to the World Championships. She's on that team. They win gold, beating Canada. Then in the PWHL, again, she's the backup goalie at the World Championship for Team USA and the backup goalie for the Ottawa Charge of PWHL. Starting goalie gets injured. She takes over. All she does is lead them to the playoffs and then win MVP and was a losing effort in the PWHA final. I mean, she's good. So it wouldn't surprise me if she's the number 2 goalie going into the Olympics, but come the gold medal game, they turn to her to win the gold. I think expect her. She's always been counted out being a number 2, somehow outperforms the number 1 and ends up right there at the end.
Should be fun. All right, Matt Barnes, we wish you the best of luck in your travels, safe travels over to Milan Cortina, and have the time of your life over there because and eat all the pasta and pizza for us.
I will. And David, as I know, with you talk about me sleeping. I'm worried about you sleeping. Because
we'll figure it out.
You don't sleep during Olympics.
Because
you're texting and tweeting at all times.
This time zone is actually working favorably for me because after we get done with the competition in Europe, then I can go shoot basketball at night.
Exactly.
And then I'll watch primetime in March.
Yeah.
It's much better in Europe than it is for
I know,
when
it
it's
is.
in Asia.
Well, it'll be better if it was here. So,
of course.
And that's coming in 2034.
We got it.
Yeah, exactly. Matt Barnes, Ori Benatar, always appreciate the time. Of course, we will have more Olympic previews to come, and you can read all the Olympic previews you want on NBC4i.com. But for now, I'm David de Guzman for Ori and for Matt. Look forward to talking more Olympics soon. Have a good one. And hello, everyone. I'm David de Guzman. Welcome inside the NBC4i Digital Center for a special edition of NBC4 Sports Extra. It is episode 3 of our Olympic previews as we continue our countdown to the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, which, of course, you can watch here on NBC4. Got some special guests for us here today. And, of course, we have Ori Benatar, but we also have Jill Jarris joining us from Cleveland. Jill, say hi. Hello.
Hello.
And Allison Brown joining us from Connecticut, which is very used to snow. So it's like a Winter Olympics every single year. Hi, Allison. How are you?
Hi, David. Good to see you.
Good, good. These two are the hosts of the Keep the Flame Alive podcast. They are prior guests to us here on NBC4, and we're happy to have them along with us to talk all things Winter Olympics as they're getting ready for the podcast's 3rd trip to an Olympics. The first was Beijing, and then they went to Paris, and now getting set for Italy. Allison, I'll start with you. The preparations for this, how is this unlike your previous 2 games?
Well, COVID was Beijing, so it was very limited in what we were able to do. And Paris obviously was the summer, which is a very different animal than the winter. The biggest difference for Milan is just how incredibly spread out these games are. There's central in Milan, but then you've got Cortina and Anselva and Tesora. So you've got the whole mountain region of northern Italy. So getting around is really going to be a challenge for us to try and cover more than just the sports that are happening in Milan.
Jill, kind of bouncing off of that, what are sort of the events in Milan that you're looking forward to the most, and that outside of sort of the popular stuff we know is going to be in Milan, like a hockey or a figure skating, what are some of the other smaller events that you're the most excited about and that people should look out for?
Right. So Milan is basically all things on skates. And one of the things I'm looking forward to is long track speed skating, because you have Jordan Stoltz, who
my
is
favorite.
an American phenomenon and could walk away with several medals. And then you have Aaron Jackson, who will hopefully repeat in the 500, winning gold. And then she's added, qualified for the 1,000 meters as well this time around. So we have a really strong team. Brittany Bowe is also just a veteran of several games now, and she's going back for more medal attempts. And the speed skating team is really, really strong. And then I'm also looking forward to short track speed skating because that's just like demolition derby.
Yeah, it is chaos on ice for sure. So the podcast started actually quite a bit ago. I can't believe you guys have been doing this for quite a while. I believe it was right after the Pyeongchang Olympics, if I'm
Just before.
Just before, right? Yeah. So I mean, I've been listening to you guys for quite a while, but for those of us that aren't quite in tune with what you guys have been able to do for, the last 8 years now. Tell us about the origins of the podcast, how that kind of all started, and either of you can go.
So Allison and I used to work together a long time ago in a research library at a consulting firm, and it was kind of one of those open office plans. So when it was time for the Olympics, we just would talk Olympics all day, and it was great. And then we both left that job at different times. And I started working freelance and was by myself at home anytime the games were on. And I had friends where we would have these epic opening ceremonies parties. But then once the sports started, they weren't quite as talk all day long about the Olympics as I was. So I really missed that. I also loved podcasts, and any podcast that was on about the Olympics was only on around the games. And once the games were over, they left. And I just wanted something that was year-round Olympics. And it was one of those situations where if it's not there and you want it, you have to build it. And Allison was coming through my town one time on vacation, and I said, "Hey, do you want to start a podcast?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, sure." And didn't know we didn't know what either one of us was getting into, really.
Yeah, and Allison, the lead up into these Olympics in particular, you guys have done so much legwork, have gotten to the Team USA Media Summit along with a lot of other interviews. What's it been like meeting all these athletes leading up to these games?
The Media Summit was great fun because everybody's there in one spot and they just kind of escort them through your spot. So you get to really just talk to so many athletes all at once. Though when you're doing those interviews back to back, you have to very quickly switch your brain because, oh, I'm talking to a biathlete. Oh, now I'm talking short track. Oh, now we're talking para ice hockey. So there's so many great sports in both the Winter Olympics and the Winter Paralympics that I'm just a huge fan of, that getting to go to that media summit and seeing so many people was, it was little Allison, 6 years old, just living a dream.
So, Allison, I mean, I get what you're saying there with, trying to bounce around between the different sports, because Dave and I were doing live blocks for Paris, and it was like
wild.
You've got like 6 screens all at the same time, and you're trying to
enough.
figure out what's going on. It was a blast, but it was a lot of work. At Winter, it seems like it's going to be a little bit easier, but you mentioned athletes. Previously here on NBC4 Sports Extra, we have discussed some of the bigger name athletes that people might know going into the games. Who are some of the American athletes that maybe people don't know enough about that have great stories that you want to point out?
Well, Jill mentioned short track, and we spoke to Corinne Stoddard, who's kind of newish on the scene, but she's looking to really make a statement on that short track. And then luge, for the first time, we're having women's doubles. It's a new event. So for the Americans, it's Siobhan Forgan and why does the name go out of my head? Sophia Kirkby, excuse me. And they are a great team. They have been a doubles team since doubles came onto the World Championships, and they've been making a name for themselves on the World Cup. And in singles, Ashley Farquharson is doing quite a number on the World Cup. So she's going to be exciting again in luge. And then there's bobsled. We have both the men's 4 and 2, and then the women's monobob and 2. So those are always really fun events to watch. And in the men's 4, we have what we call Shukflastani #1, which was the first interview we ever did for the show, which is Josh Williamson. And he's going to be heading to, he's an amazing human being and also just an amazing bobsledder. And he's heading to Olympics #2 for him. So we're really cheering for him.
It sounds like you guys are going to try to cover a lot of stories. Jill, this is now going to be your second Winter Olympics. And both of you covered Paris back in Beijing. There is quite the logistical nightmare to try to cover
one
these
way to say
games.
it.
Yeah, because naturally, as a Winter Olympics, it is just really spread out. What is the plan? And understanding that you will have to blow up the plan depending on so many other factors, but what is the strategy? What is the plan of attack for going into these Olympics? Will we both be at the opening ceremony? Maybe let's start there. We'll start simple.
Well, opening ceremony is what they call a high demand event, ticket-wise, especially for journalists, because there are thousands of journalists there and only so many spaces that they're going to allocate to media in the San Siro Stadium. So we apply, and hopefully we get at least one ticket, if we're lucky, two. But if we get one of us goes, and then the other goes and finds some kind of little watch party to watch the opening ceremonies there. We will be based in Milan because that just seemed more central and also more affordable for our very tiny podcast budget, to be quite honest. And then the hope is to be able to go out to Bormio, might be within striking distance. That's where men's alpine is, and I believe also ski mountaineering. And then maybe cross country we can get to reasonably. And by reasonably, we're talking like a 4 to 5 hour commute. So we're really hopeful we can get to one of those. Maybe we can spend a couple of days on the other side in Cortina and commute up from maybe Venice, where it's a little more affordable to stay, and see some of the curling or the sliding sports. Sadly, biathlon is just off the table. It's too far away for us to get to. And yeah, that's really what we're hoping to do. Definitely see the stuff on ice and hopefully get to some other places and be prepared to spend a lot of time in trains and buses.
Yeah, and before I let Ori take a question here, I just want to say I'm praying for you guys that Allison does not have the same bathroom situation that occurred in Beijing. And if we have time, I would love to recount that story. Go ahead, Ori.
Well, I mean, I figure we just have to go to that because I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Bathroom story in Beijing?
It is a famous story. In Allison, you're gonna have to give us the shortened. We don't have that much time, but maybe give us the synopsis.
Well, the highlight of the story is I got stuck in a bathroom and ended up going crashing through the door of a bathroom. Because the toilet was like up on a step. And I sort of took a tumble off and the door didn't hold me.
Oh boy.
And crashing all the way through. So there was also a second story where I almost fell in one of the Asian floor toilets,
right,
where I again tripped and almost went headfirst into that at the Bird's Nest in Beijing. So I am hoping that nice European toilets, there won't be any bidet issues, or
well,
any
because then there was a sequel in Paris, not necessarily to this specific story, but then there was an ongoing series to each daily podcast you guys did. What was that segment called again?
Toilet talk.
That's right.
Toilet talk. And it's surprising how women who are of a certain age just can't use the toilet wherever we go, because it would be like the toilet. We couldn't find the toilets. We couldn't. They were in like tiny stalls sometimes at some venues where you could barely fit you and your backpack in, or like we're both on the shorter side, so maybe the toilet was on the wall and we couldn't touch the floor with our feet. It was a scene. It was really tough.
I can relate to the short part. I can't relate to anything else in that story because that sounds nuts. I mean, you might have just invented a new Winter Olympic sport there, Allison, 4 years ago.
I just wonder if Toilet Talk will make a return for Italy.
We hope not. We hope that there is no need for that. And that's the funny thing about the podcast is we never know what's going to be the adventure of that trip. We never expected Paris to have Toilet Talk.
That wasn't the segment plan that you guys had going into. It could have been a sponsored segment.
It's true. By Sherman. That would have been great.
we also happen to be the podcast that's at the intersection of the Olympics and floor maintenance, because when we went
Right.
to China, we didn't expect that the only place and time we could record was exactly when the cleaning staff was vacuuming the entire media center, which is in like a giant convention center. And so the vacuuming would show up on the noise, and we thought, well, that was one and done. And then literally one of the first things we see when we go into a media center in Paris is another vacuum. And that's all we saw. We just kept seeing floor maintenance right and left. So
You guys were friends after a while.
We were. We took pictures with the vacuumers.
It's wild. I can't wait for what's going to happen in Italy, because I think it's going to be, we're going to have to find something that it'll just naturally come. Should we try to talk more Team USA?
Try and get back on track.
Or get us back on track here, man.
I mean, first of all, you guys are trying to do the Milan to Cortina commute. Why didn't you do the Paris to Tahiti commute 2 years ago? And if you can,
we have a small budget. Do you have a sponsor for us?
we're trying our best. You should hear some of the travel issues that we're having.
we'll try a floor building company. I don't know. I mean, but hey, if you guys can pull off Milan Cortina, maybe LA Oklahoma City commute 2 years later for LA.
Yeah.
Catch some softball and canoing.
We'll get a charter.
But
That seems manageable.
Yeah.
That you could spend a couple of days in Oklahoma City, and also it's softball, so that jazzes me up to make it worthwhile to make that trip. Tahiti was a problem because you never knew when the surfing was going to happen. They had so many weather problems, and that's the other problem with Milan. You may plan to go to the mountain on a particular day, but then the events get canceled or postponed or moved around. So the weather today is a mess, but the weather, it plays a huge role in the winter games that we didn't have to deal with in Paris.
yeah, and as we're recording this, we're dealing with all kinds of weather.
So much weather.
But staying with you, Allison, here, I did want to ask outside of Team USA, because I think for summer games, I think a lot of people kind of know who the medal table rivals are. You're dealing with a host nation and you're dealing with China. Who are the nations to watch for the United States in the medal table battle?
Canada, always a big factor, especially when you talk about men's and women's hockey especially. You kind of expect that the gold medal game is going to be U.S. versus Canada, which is always exciting. All the Nordic countries are very strong in cross country and biathlon and ski jumping. You've got the Germans and all the sliding sports. They dominate, and if anybody can beat them, that'll be a real coup. And then the host nation, Italy, is very good in a lot of spots.
Short track.
Short track. Oh, Ariana Fontana is back again, and she is no joke.
You think she'll like the cauldron, by the way? What do you think? I want to get. I know I'm just inserting myself in here, but opening ceremony thoughts. I mean, we've seen it before where we've had an active athlete. We had Naomi Osaka in Tokyo. We had Kathy Freeman in Sydney. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. She is pretty legendary.
Both Paris ones were judoka who competed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Carolina Costner, actually, the figure skater, who is retired but very, very involved in Milan to possibly.
I don't know, Jill. What do you think?
Oh, well, if you're going retired, I would say Alberto Tomba.
Yes.
Who's classic skier.
Did he do it? Or wasn't he one of the final torchbearers in Torino?
Yeah.
Yes. But
I mean,
not the final torchbearer. Not
That's
the
right.
not the cauldron lighting. I would put my vote in for Dorothea Viera, who is a biathlete, and she is amazing to watch. Shoots incredibly fast and stuck around another quad to get a home games. And she's been doing remarkably well this season. And she could also be a factor in the cauldron lighting.
I mean, it's always a highly kept secret, although this year they've been allowing a lot of other secrets to get out, which the cauldron, we already know what that looks like. Usually that's a pretty good secret. I'll be interested to see how they do light the cauldron. We know what it looks like, but I don't know how they're going to light it.
The Norwegian ski jumpers also had some secrets that got out.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
There's been we love the lead up to an Olympics. There's always so many things. I do want to talk a little bit more biathlon. You guys did do an interview recently with a couple of biathletes, and biathlon is the one sport that the United States has yet to medal in, and they've had some really good chances. I thought Beijing, they actually had a pretty good chance of ending that drought. Tell me about your outlook for, well, tell me about the athletes that you guys were able to talk to, and then also your outlook for maybe USA having an outside shot at trying to get to a podium that's always dominated by Europeans.
So we talked with Deidre Irwin and Sean Doherty. Deidre has she has the U.S.'s top finish so far in biathlon at the Olympics, where she got a 7th place at Beijing. And that was a huge surprise. She had a fantastic day on the course, and she could do very well again. She had a slow start in the beginning of the year, but has come back and had some top 15 finishes. So biathlon's one of those sports you never know who's going to win, and if you're in the top 15 or so, you could be on the podium for sure. Because anybody can have a good day, anybody can have a bad day, and if you just stick with it, you could go there. Sean Doherty is a mainstay on the men's relay. He's really strong in the relay aspect of it. And both men's and women's and mixed relays have been doing quite well also in the whole World Cup season this year. They have a chance, especially the mixed relay has a chance to be on the podium. Also, the big name to look out for is Campbell Wright. And Campbell is originally from New Zealand, and he came over to America and to get better support for biathlon, because if it's a tiny sport here in the U.S., but it's really tiny in New Zealand. So he has been phenomenal in the last couple of years. He medaled at World Championships last year, I believe, and going into the season, he has also done quite well in the standings against some very, very, very strong Norwegian and French biathletes. So you never know. We could get on the podium.
Is biathlon the only sport the U.S. hasn't medaled in all of Olympic history?
For the Winter Olympics?
I know for sure it's for the winter. Does it also include
winter.
summer?
There's
Well, summer,
handball?
I mean, you have sports added as well. You know, the sports come and go. But
Yeah, that's right,
handball
yeah.
would probably be one, I would say.
Better start preparing now for LA.
Yeah.
You know, we have a few more minutes here. You guys also talked with a lot of cross country skiers at the media summit. Allison, give us a kind of an overview with how the United States will do in cross country. I know for Jessie Diggins, who came up with one of the most historic moments in U.S. Olympic history. I believe this will be her last one, and she's coming in. On a tear. She just won the Tour de Ski, which is kind of the equivalent of the Tour de France.
I mean, here comes Diggins is the goal, and she has never let up since she won that medal in Pyeongchang. We spoke to Julia Kern and Gus Schumacher, both who have really made some noise this season on the World Cup circuit, and we're looking for them. We're hoping that the conditions will be a little bit better than they were in Beijing. Beijing was incredibly, incredibly cold, and the snow was all man-made and weird is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it's a different kind of cold.
It's a different kind of cold. It's desert cold, and the snow was apparently more like sand, and really made it difficult for the skiers to get a feel. So they're excited because this is a familiar course for them. They're part of the World Cup circuit, comes and goes through Italy. So this should be a lot of fun. And I would expect Jessie to make a statement for her last Olympics.
Yeah, she could win a medal or two probably. She's within that contention.
She looks really good. I mean, from this past World Cup season, she looks phenomenal.
I do want to ask both of you. We'll start with Jill here because I see her on the screen. So I feel like it's been a little bit since we've had a Winter Olympics where American names pierce through to become more mainstream. For each of you, who do you think will be that name after these Olympics? We'll start with Jill.
Oh boy. Who is not mainstream already?
Or who might be mainstream but will become even bigger.
Yeah, and I feel like our views of
I
mainstream
mean,
have been different after a while too. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
who do you think?
Well, I think Lindsey Vonn is going to be on the podium. I am amazed at her comeback, and it's just so incredible, and the work she's put in is so inspiring, and it's really paid off. And it's great to see someone who is in their 40s still able to compete on the world stage. I'm hoping that Michaela Schifrin has a much better Olympics than she had in Beijing. It was really, really tough games for her. And I'm hoping that she can do well there and pierce through again. I'm hoping that Amber Glenn does well in figure skating and can break through and become more mainstream. And of course I love Erin Jackson. And I'm hoping that she will, again, be on the podium and just have some great races and be somebody who is a household name for a while.
Allison, how about you?
Going on Alpine, I'd love to see Breezy Johnson kind of pull.
That's the name we've talked about here. Yeah.
Yeah, so that the three women really make a statement. On the figure skating side, you've got Ilya Malinin, who just absolutely dominates men's skating right now, and I think he would, if he's not already pretty mainstream, he's set himself up to be a huge star in this Olympics. Jill mentioned Amber Glenn. We got to go with Alyssa Liu and Isabel Levito. There is a possibility, a very small possibility, but there is a possibility for the women to sweep. But you have the Japanese women who will have something to say about that. And Jill mentioned Jordan Stoltz before with long track speed skating. If he achieves what he has achieved, say at last year's World Championships, I don't know how a kid like that could not catch on to the zeitgeist.
Yeah, I mean, that's a guy. I really think Jordan is going to be one of these breakout stars. If he does what a lot of us expect him to do, I really think he's someone that we're going to be talking about for a really, really long time. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. We want to get you guys back before the Paralympics because your podcast also does really well with both the Olympics and the Paralympic movement. I'm sure we're going to try to get you guys in again in between games for sure. But Allison Brown, Jill Jaracz, the host of the Keep the Flame Alive podcast, and real quick, in the next 30 seconds that we have left here, you have a very special, the athletes that appear on your podcast, they're part of a special team. Can you explain that real quickly?
Absolutely. So we made up a country called Shukflistan because everyone who's on the show becomes part of Team Keep the Flame Alive. Does not acronym very well to anything catchy. But when we were first going through it, it sort of reminded us of all those former Soviet republics. So we made a country, and now all of our listeners and all of our athletes are citizens of Shuklistan, and it gives us a real way to
Team
cheer for them.
Shiflistan. Gosh.
Wow. Shuklistan,
We are wishing Shiflistan the best at these upcoming games. Jill, Allison, appreciate the time. Thank you guys. Thank you, Ori, for the time as well. That'll do it for this edition of NBC4 Sports Extra. Of course, keep tuned here. We'll have more previews of the Olympics. And of course, during the games, we'll have all the updates you could possibly ask for. But until then, I'm David de Guzman. Have a great rest of your day. Hello, everyone. I'm David de Guzman. Welcome inside the NBC4 Digital Center. It's another special edition of NBC4 Sports Extra as we conclude our four-part series previewing the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics. It's been a lot of fun over the last 3 episodes. Me and Ori Benatar talking about a lot of the major storylines. We had Matt Barnes on, as well as the hosts of the Keep the Flame Alive podcast, Jill Jaracz and Allison Brown. They're all in Italy. Ori and I are here stateside to help you get through the next 2.5 weeks of competition. But we have one more preview show to go. Ori will join me later in the show to talk about what to watch for in that opening week of the Olympics. But first, we've got a lot of news to get to, starting with one of the biggest storylines heading into these Milan Cortina Winter Games, and that is the news surrounding Lindsey Vonn, the American skier looking to complete her comeback, a remarkable comeback after winning gold 16 years ago in Vancouver. She's definitely had her share of injuries. She retired following the Pyeongchang 2018 Olympics, but then she decided to come back. And not only did she come back, but she came back as a medal contender right up until last week when she suffered a major crash at a World Cup downhill event in Switzerland. She had to be airlifted from the course, and today, on the day of this taping, we learned exactly the extent of that injury and whether Lindsay would go ahead and go for it in the downhill despite the injury that she is facing. We knew that it was a left knee injury. Matt Barnes has the latest on what's going on with Lindsey Vonn heading into these Milan Cortina games.
It was the news all the Winter Olympics was waiting for. Would Lindsey Vonn be able to compete? Well, today, in front of a packed house and a press conference room, she gave us the verdict.
Last Friday in Crans-Montana, in the last World Cup, I completely ruptured my ACL. I also have bone bruising, which is a common injury when you tear your ACL. But we have been doing extensive therapy, been consulting with doctors, been in the gym, and today I went skiing. And considering how my knee feels, it feels stable, I feel strong. My knee is not swollen, and with the help of a knee brace, I am confident that I can compete on Sunday.
Skiing injured is nothing new for Vonn. Her career has been littered with injuries, but having this one come so close to what is likely her final Olympics truly hurts.
This is not obviously what I had hoped for. I've been working really hard to come into these games in a much different position. I know what my chances were before the crash, and I know my chances aren't the same as it stands today, but I know there's still a chance.
But in typical Vonn fashion, she isn't giving up. She doesn't know how. And so her mind isn't on her injury. It's on getting down that mountain as fast as she possibly can. And now we wait. Will indeed Vonn make it to the finish line? She says she will, but will she then continue her career later in these games with the Super G and the team combined? We all wait on pins and needles to find how she will do in the first race on that women's downhill on February 8th. Reporting in Cortina, I'm Matt Barnes.
If there's one thing we know about Lindsey Vonn, she is definitely a fighter. You go back to those Vancouver 2010 games, and she actually suffered a bruised right shin, if you can recall, going into those Olympic games. She had to go through a lot of painkillers. She talked a lot about that painkiller regimen that she underwent just to be able to get down the hill. And she actually benefited from, remember, there was weather that affected the downhill training runs. Normally, they would go on these training runs before the event takes place just to get a feel for the course. And there was supposed to be a downhill training run that took place in Vancouver. And because of weather, that ended up getting scrapped. That allowed her to actually get some more rest. And of course, as we all know, she ended up winning gold. That was 16 years ago. Lindsey Vonn trying to come up with that same magic. But if she can even get on the podium, that in itself would be an incredible feat. Of course, you know what they say about the Olympics. It's all about participation. So we'll see how she does in the training run. And of course, the downhill set for Super Bowl Sunday. That is on February 8th. All right, let's take a look at some of the other storylines that we're following heading into the opening ceremony. It's always that anticipated announcement of who will get to bear the flag of the United States. It is an honor for anyone in the Olympics to be able to bear the flag of their country that they're competing for. If you remember in Paris, Coco Gauff and LeBron James had that honor of being the U.S. flag bearers for the Summer Olympics. Well, on Tuesday, we found out who will be carrying the flag into San Siro Stadium for the opening ceremony of the Milan Cortina Games. And Justin Surensey has that news from Cortina.
It's the ultimate honor for any Olympian to be named your country's official flag bearer heading into the Winter Olympic opening ceremonies. Now, 2 new names will be etched into history forever. Trailblazing speed skater Aaron Jackson and Frankie Del Duca, the 2-time Olympic bobsledder with deep Italian roots.
Palermo, Sicily, Naples, Italy, and then a small town, Lonzo, Italy, I believe is what it's called. And that grandparent and great great-grandparent moved to Naples from there.
Jackson, now a 3-time Olympian, looks to defend her 500-meter gold from Beijing in 2022 when she became the first African-American woman to win individual gold at the Winter Games. Becoming flag bearer was yet another unexpected first for the Florida native.
I think it's going to be pretty overwhelming. I'm really excited. It'll be cool to have my teammates next to me, including my teammate Brittany Bowe, who was the flag bearer for the last games. It means so much. I ran into one of my teammates in the cafeteria yesterday, and he was like, "I've been voting for you like crazy."
Introducing Team USA to the world at the opening ceremonies is not lost on either. A first impression that will make a lasting memory.
For it to go through and be voted through Team USA, it was a wonderful surprise, and it means the world. My grandfather was also in the U.S. Army. I'm in the U.S. Army, and I just know he'd be very proud.
The Olympic bobsled track is just right over my shoulder. Frankie Del Duca will be the 6th bobsledder to hold the honor of flag bearer. Jackson becomes the 8th speed skater to have the honor. Opening ceremonies kicks off the Olympics on Friday, February 6th. Here in Cortina, I'm Justin Cernsey.
Very cool honor for both Aaron Jackson and Frank Del Duca, which great connections to the Olympics. Of course, Aaron Jackson, she made history 4 years ago in Beijing by winning that gold medal in the 500 meters. And you heard her talk about her friendship with Brittany Bowe. Brittany was the reason why she was able to go to those Beijing games and compete in that 500 meter event in the first place. If you remember the story, Aaron Jackson actually fell during qualifying, but Brittany Bowe allowed her to take her spot in that event. And of course, both ended up getting to go to the Olympics, and Aaron Jackson got to make history there. And of course, Frankie Del Duca, as you just heard, he has Italian roots and also has a military background as well. So a great honor for both of those athletes to be able to carry the flag into the San Siro Stadium during the opening ceremony. Also, remember that the opening ceremony, first off, you can watch that on NBC4 on Friday. Live coverage begins at noon, and of course, we'll have a primetime replay. But that opening ceremony is going to be taking place technically in 4 different places. So we anticipate, because Frankie Del Duca will be competing up in the mountains in the Italian Alps, that in the Dolomite region, that he'll be carrying the flag in the Cortina part of the opening ceremony, while Aaron Jackson will carry the flag into San Siro Stadium in Milan. So we'll see how the logistics of the opening ceremony will kind of take place. You won't know until you actually see it unfold on NBC4, so that'll be really exciting. Another really exciting event coming up is, of course, figure skating. All eyes are on Team USA, which could be the most powerful figure skating team that we've seen in quite some time. And it all gets started with the team event, which the United States is the defending gold medalist in. If you remember, Team USA technically won silver in the Beijing Olympics. Russia had won gold, but then a doping scandal delayed the awarding of those medals. And then, of course, we all know what happened with the doping scandal. Russia ended up getting demoted to the bronze medal position, while the United States got moved up to gold, and they received those gold medals during a special ceremony during the Paris Olympics 2 years ago. So the United States trying to defend their gold medal title, and they've got a lot of talent. Jack Doles has more on that.
Figure skaters will be among the first athletes to compete in the Milan Cortina Games, and today some of the American favorites skated rings around the rings.
The first practice on Olympic ice, what was that like?
Amazing. I think when I skated over the Olympic rings for the first time, my heart skipped a beat. I was like, oh, it's the moment, it's happening.
For Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, this is their 4th Olympics together. They've never been the favorite, but after winning 3 consecutive world championships, they sure are now.
Do you guys feel like this is your time?
Absolutely. I think this is our time. We've had a lifetime of work and dedication to our craft and our passion, and it feels like this is it.
Speaking of favorites, Ilya Malinin is primed to become one of the biggest stars in Italy. The quad god is competing in his first Olympics, and he said taking the ice and seeing the rings for the first time was really special.
You know, just still, the feeling is surreal being here at the Olympics in Milan. It's I'm honestly just really excited for all the moments that are about to happen.
Amber Glenn shocked some when she beat Alyssa Liu at the U.S. Championships. She's been a big advocate of social change, especially when it comes to diversity and inclusion. Amber says she was very happy with the decision to change the name of the hospitality space for figure skating, hockey, and speed skating, from Ice House to the Winter House.
It's really unfortunate that the term ice has an ice skating. Like, I'm here on this sheet of ice, and saying that, it's kind of like, disheartening that something so negative has taken that name from us. But that is something so minute in comparison to the struggles and the atrocities that people are facing back home.
Figure skating begins on Friday with day one of the team competition. In Milan, I'm Jack Doles reporting.
Ilya Malinin, of course, the heavily favored skater to win men's figure skating gold. We'll see if he does both the short program and the long program. The thinking is that he will do the short program for the team event, and then we'll see if the United States has a shot at gold or not. Certainly they are in the running, and in fact, joining me to talk about what's going to happen in these team figure skating competition is the guy who's going to be calling day one of competition. If you remember, Terry Gannon usually calls figure skating for NBC, but he's going to be busy calling the opening ceremony on the first day of the team event. So Bill Spalding, a good friend of mine, will be calling that first day of the competition alongside, Tara Lipinski and Johnny Weir, of course. And he joined me earlier. I asked him about what to expect in terms of the medal contenders in these team event competition. There's going to be 3 separate skates going on. And so he has the call for that on Friday morning before the opening ceremony. And here's his outlook as to what might happen during the 3-day event.
Especially look at the head-to-head. We expect the U.S. and Japan to be going for the gold medal, and then expect Georgia and Italy to be the 2 teams most likely going for the bronze medal. So to be able to compare and contrast how their skaters perform there, because in the team event, I think differently than in an individual event, you really get a lot of that math involved where you have to think big picture about not just that specific skate, but where does it fit in with everything else. And then honestly, when you sit next to Tara and Johnny, the easiest part of the job and the most fun part of the job is you just let Tara and Johnny be Tara and Johnny.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Ori Benatar will join me. He'll tell us what to look out for in the first week of these Winter Olympic Games, the 25th Olympic Winter Games. Stay with us. You're watching NBC4 Sports Extra. All right, back here on NBC4 Sports Extra, continuing our preview of the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics. So we'll give a general overview of how to approach these Winter Games, especially throughout the first week. Traditionally, there is a bit of, kind of science to what to look out for in terms of all the events. Generally, the downhill competitions in alpine skiing will be in that first week. Then also in figure skating, we'll get the it's usually the pairs, but actually we're doing it differently now. Beijing, they did the pairs as the last event. So in these Olympics, we'll actually get the ice dancing and the men's figure skating. And also, we're going to be seeing some overlap. Usually, Ori, in past games, we'll have like the men's competition all happen. Well, we have team. Obviously, we have team in that first weekend. Yeah. And then usually we have the men's and then we have ice dance. We're actually going to be switching things up a bit. We're going to be doing the rhythm dance of ice dancing, and then we'll have the men's short program, and then we'll go back to ice dancing to award some medals, and then we'll do the men's free skate. So we're kind of changing things up a bit, but what else are you looking out for in this first week of competition?
So before the first official day on Saturday, there'll be a couple things you can watch before then. So like U.S. women's hockey starts on Thursday. They're going to be playing Czechia on their opening game, USA mixed curling, and then those first programs in the team event where the United States are the defending champions, even though they didn't win in Beijing, but Russian doping scandal forces the Russian team to lose their medal. And the U.S. actually got that gold awarded to them in Paris, which, a Winter Games medal ceremony at a Summer Olympics. I don't know when that is ever going to happen again, but it's gonna be a lot more digestible to consume than Paris. Just as we mentioned again, there's less events, makes it a little bit easier. But in that first week, I think is starting to get into the movements of you know what you expect each day. You get a cross country skiing or biathlon final every day. You'll get usually an alpine skiing event every day. You'll have your figure skating here and there. There'll be some days without figure skating, but like you said, you kind of mapped out that first week already. But it's nice to have back-to-back days with kind of those medal events. If you can read this, good for you. Zoom in on your screen to
if you're watching on our app or on your phone, or if you're watching on NBC4i.com, take a screen grab, or make sure you're on a 50-inch to 64-inch screen here. But it just goes to show you there's a lot going on.
And a lot that will be live on NBC4. So looking at that first week, a lot of the stuff that'll be live on our channel, pretty much all the figure skating events, with the exception of the end of the team event on Sunday, February 8th, because of the Super Bowl.
I'm about to say, is there something else going on?
There's a lot of
Sunday?
stuff going on NBC4 for Legendary February, by the way.
Yeah.
So... But yeah, you'll have a lot of stuff. Speed skating finals are going to be big, especially with Jordan Stoltz. So keep an eye on those. All those alpine skiing finals generally will be starting pretty early in the morning at like a 5:30, 6 a.m. time slot. The hockey games will be going on. The big one is going to be on the 10th with the U.S. and Canadian women facing off. Most of those games will be on USA Network. And then, of course,
Peacock.
And Peacock, yeah. You'll have Gold Zone again with Scott Hansen and all those other guys. That'll be on NBC Sports Network if you get it. I believe that channel is on YouTube TV and potentially a few other cable services, but that's a highly recommended watch.
I just found that channel again because I was trying to look for Premier League, and I was like, "Ooh, NBCSN is back."
Yeah, and they have Premier League games on NBCSN.
It's basically the overflow. If you don't have Peacock, but you have cable, that's where you can find a lot of events that are on Peacock, and it's on your cable. So
and that's kind of the structure of it. CNBC is going to show stuff live on weekends, nothing on the weekday. If you're looking for that first USA men's hockey game with the NHL players returning, that will be on, is that listed as the 11th? Or is it the 12th?
Yes, let's go back to it.
Yeah, just to make sure. It's the 12th.
I believe it's the 12th.
Yeah, the 12th against Latvia, making sure I got my dates right.
The Elvis Merce Lincolns and
the Elvis Sack Bowl, yeah.
So the Blue Jackets Bowl.
Yeah, the Blue Jackets Bowl to open things up. So that'll be an exciting game. And then you get into that Valentine's Day weekend.
Let's plan out Valentine's Day.
Why even have a romantic getaway where you can just sit at home on Saturday, February 14th, watch some Olympics, watch the U.S. men's hockey team play Denmark, and then later down the line,
your
watch
wife is so lucky.
Yeah, and then watch the NBA All-Star Saturday night on NBC4 with the dunk contest and the three-point shootout.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It basically, if you remember how Paris went, kind of go by that same kind of sleep schedule, if you will. There will be events going on basically from like the 3, 4, 5 a.m. range. So if you want to wake up with NBC4 today and then watch Matt Barnes' live reports, have that second screen ready to watch all the action unfolding in Milan Cortina. And then, just kind of we'll take you through. Daytime begins at noon on NBC4. It'll take you to 5 o'clock. Then, of course, you can just keep it on us. We'll have the latest news and headlines from Central Ohio. And then we'll also have Olympic Zone every weeknight and Saturday. Well, except for NBA All-Star, but we'll have Olympic Zone for you to get you ready for prime time and then watch it all over again. Mike Tirico has been doing this since the Pyeongchang 2018 Olympics. He will become the first broadcaster, by the way, to not only obviously call a Super Bowl and then also host the Olympics, but to do it in the same weekend. No other broadcaster has done this. There have been others that have done both the Olympics and a Super Bowl, but never like in the same year, let alone the same weekend.
Because Al Michaels never hosted Olympics prime time because Costas had it at the time.
I forgot that when the Bengals played in the Super Bowl, that was Al Michaels' last Super Bowl with NBC4, and then he moved over to Amazon. But obviously Mike was on site for that. He'll be on site again for these games. He'll be hosting primetime from the Bay Area, and then he'll hop on a plane and go over to Milan.
You Syracuse alum, man. You guys
love
get
to
around.
Travel. Yeah. Hey, let's take one more break, and then when we come back, we'll have some final thoughts. We'll also maybe talk a little opening ceremony, just some things to look out for there. But we'll do that on the other side of the break. You're watching NBC4 Sports Extra. Back here, NBC4 Sports Extra, the final block of our long previews for the Milan Cortina games. Let's just talk opening ceremony a little bit. Okay. For those of you who are able to watch this right before the opening ceremony, just some things to look out for. You know what's interesting, Ori? So we know that Mariah Carey is going to be performing on this, and then also Andrea Bocelli, who performed in the closing ceremony at the Torino games. I remember that,
and at the World Cup draw.
That's true. Yep. Here's what's crazy. Did you know this, or did you realize this? So Andrea Bocelli, he's going to do the opening ceremony. He is supposed to hop on a plane. Guess where he's going first? He's coming here. He is supposed to be doing a concert. And I tried to double check this. I was like,
wait, in Columbus?
Sure. Well, I looked it up and I was like, isn't he, like, I thought he's supposed
I remember
to do...
that there was an announcement there'd be a Bocelli concert in Columbus. But I didn't realize the dates. And
I looked up the date, and I'm going to do it again, because otherwise, if I'm wrong, I'm just going to edit this out because no one else will know. But like, I looked it up. He is supposed to come here February 7th, the day after the opening. I'm looking at it right now, Andrea Bocelli. So how insane is that? You're going to do the opening ceremony of the Milan Cortina games. You're hopping on a plane. The first place you go to is Central Ohio. So correct me if I'm wrong, Internet, but that is the schedule that is supposed to be happening.
That's a first, probably ever in human history.
Yeah, opening ceremony, and then you go to Columbus. I mean, have not seen that happen before. Some other really cool things just to kind of an opening ceremony viewing guide. Obviously, for the Winter Games, Parade of Nations will be earlier than you would see in the Summer Games. There's kind of the less cultural stuff to do. It does still happen. It's just going to happen after. Basically, we want the athletes, since it's smaller, to be part of the show as well.
And they're doing two parades, right?
Yeah. So, here's the crazy thing, too. This is going to be, you thought Paris was crazy because we did it along a river and it was outside and not in a stadium proper. We're going to be doing this in like 4 different places, technically. Like, where we'll have athletes marching in like Milan, Cortina, but also the other 2 clusters, if you will, where athletes are participating, and they'll be walking in at the same time. So it'll be interesting to watch how they're going to pull this off.
And get your TVUs up.
Yeah. You have to sync it up properly. And then, as we talked about earlier, we got 2 different they're the same cauldrons, but they're in 2 different places, and they'll try to light it at the same time. So there's that. There'll be the speeches. There'll be the Olympic flag coming in. We got the Olympic oath we got to do. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance and protocol that happens for an opening ceremony.
This is the first opening ceremony with Kirsty Coventry as the IOC president.
Yes,
right?
that is
she'll
correct.
make her first big speech.
Yep.
She's replacing Thomas Bach. If you're familiar with these names,
if you're really nerdy.
And Kirsty Coventry was a great swimmer,
first female
Zimbabwe
IOC president. Yep, yeah, I remember. Yeah, 2004, I believe she won medals.
Yeah, in 08, she was also awesome in Beijing. So
yeah. So there's that. We got a couple minutes left, Ori, but that's kind of the overview for the opening ceremony, which you can watch. Coverage will begin at noon on NBC4, and then, of course, the primetime replay. Can we go into general predictions of what you're expecting? Yeah, you go ahead.
Malinen's going to win figure skating. I think he'll have the best performance of any individual athlete in a Winter Olympics ever. If he can land 7 quad jumps in one routine.
He can fall 3 times and still win. That's basically.
That's how difficult. It's like a Simone Biles in the sense that the routine is so difficult that even if he stumbles, he could still win.
Yeah.
The
other predictions?
I have to do something for hockey.
Sure, yeah.
I'm going to give the U.S. women gold. I think they win.
Ooh, they have been kind of going back and forth.
And my bold prediction for the men, one of Canada or the U.S. does not make the final. Even though all I want, if there's one thing I could have for these Winter Olympics, is the last competition be a U.S.-Canada men's hockey gold medal final to recreate what we got at 4 nations at an even higher level.
Yeah.
But I think one of Sweden or Finland is going to ruin that.
Aww.
That's my bold prediction.
I think my bold prediction is Jordan Stoltz will win every single event that he's in. That's a bold.
That's hard to do.
But he's going to medal for sure, I think, in all his events. But if we're going to go bold here, I think he will win gold in all of the events that he's entered in, which should be 4, I believe, 500, 1,000, 15, and I believe he's doing it's either mass start or the team event. I always forget which.
Then
I get those two.
Then we
mixed
have
up.
to find like which nation that doesn't have snow wins a medal.
Yeah. So, okay, those are our bold predictions. This is certainly not the last. We'll be talking about the Olympics, by the way. Ori will be joining me throughout the games when he can. Apparently, we're supposed to take days off. I don't know when we're going to do that. But
what's the point?
What is that? But certainly, we'll be talking more about the Olympics. We'll have more predictions, more storylines, and more day-to-day coverage as it goes. But, Ori, I really appreciate the time for talking about our countdown to the Milan Cortina games.
And we're here, man. It's here. Let's do it.
We will see you soon. But for Ori Benatar, I'm David de Guzman. Enjoy the opening ceremony of the Milan Cortina Winter Games. We have arrived. Thanks for joining us on NBC4 Sports Extra. Till next time, have a great one.